This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.
It have a Schlage orange control key, and I can't seem to figure out what cuts to get them apart. Could you help me with that?
So you have Schlage FSIC orange construction.
That is correct.
Okay, why haven't you shimmed it open and just measured the pins?
Well, I mean, it's a whole lot less difficult just to make a key, so I could use it for other stuff. I got a bunch of them.
And I'm not, that question wasn't more of a challenge, but an intellectual pursuit. You're assuming that someone knows the bidding for the orange?
No, I just want to take them apart so I can reuse them. I got a wholesale lot of these things, and they got a whole bunch of these orange cores. So rather than
how can I help you?
I just would like to know if you can give me the bidding so I can cut the key.
I don't know the bidding for orange. Since I don't know the bidding, I would say to you, simply get a 35101 and shim it open, and then just figure it out from there. That's if someone walked in and said, "I need a control key for this." Okay, give me 10 minutes. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I would shim it. I'm sorry. If I knew it, I would just tell you, but I don't know what the bidding is for orange. You might call Schlage and just ask. They may share that information.
It's like an hour on the phone with them.
Oh, big time!
I was just trying to solve this quickly. That's all.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, right. Do you possess the ability to shim a cylinder?
Yeah, I can do it. It's just going to take an hour to screw around with it. That's all.
No, it's not going to take an hour. Now, if you want, send me an email, and I will ask Schlage if they'll give it to me. And if they will, I'll send it to you. And if they won't, then there you go. You'll have to shim it open. Or mail one to me, and I'll shim it open for you.
I really can't shim these. The shells that they're in are not made correctly. So
are the cores in the trim?
No, they're just in the cylinders, but the cylinders themselves, I can't reach the pin because I have to drill a hole on the opposite side. So, yeah, it's just easier to cut a key. But
no, I'm not following. Why can't you remove the threaded cap and get to it?
Well, you can't remove the threaded cap. It's completely encased.
Yeah, but that pin, I've done it. What did I do to do it?
It doesn't come apart. The hole for the retainer pin in the shell is actually drilled on the wrong side, so I can't access it. And then the back of the cylinder is capped, so I can't get anything apart.
Huh.
Yeah.
I wonder if the design of the, whatever it is, 20-030 or whatever the partner, I wonder if it's different on control.
Yeah, so I'm either going to have to drill another hole in this thing or figure something else out. But I'll get it apart.
Send me an email. I'll ask, and if they answer, I'll send it to you.
Okay. What's your email address?
Sales, SALES. It's on the website. Sales at, and it's the same, absupply.net.
Okay. All right. I'll send it to you.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. Now, in the conversation you just heard, I went immediately to assuming that the client just had the LFIC cores, or the FSIC cores, and just needed to shim them open. Turns out that I found out later in an email that they were installed in the housings. So, I am not very good at picking cylinders open. I was assuming he had the core and you could shim it open. And the client went on to say that he didn't want to have to drill a hole. And I thought what he was meaning was a reference to getting the pin in the side of the top of the core housing, the top of the core, that when you put the control key in, because of that extra tip, and you rotate it 10 degrees clockwise, you'll lift the pin up in the back, the small little lifting pin, and then allow the locking pin of the core to retract. I thought that that was the blockage he couldn't get around, and I had said on the phone, as I'm mentally scratching my head, thinking, no, I've shimmed those open. So what he needed to do was pick the cylinder open. That's a different animal. Some people could probably just breeze through it. I could probably eventually get it open, but I would toy around with it, and then I would stop after 10 minutes defeated. But if I have the core in my hand, I'm pretty sure I could shim it open, and I'll demonstrate how to shim it open. Turns out, in the world of Schlage, there's more than one orange bitting. I simply contacted Schlage. They were very, very agreeable to providing the bittings, which I forwarded to the client. So that saves him the trouble of having to get, what it saves him the trouble of is probably having to either pick it open, and if he can't, destructively bypass one of them to get the pins out so that he could then figure out what the bitting of the orange that he has, the one of the three models, and then hopefully the rest are all the same, and it would be no big deal. But who wants to drill into a cylinder? I had spoken to a customer last week, and he got called to a truck stop. A child got locked into. This is a truck stop that you'll have on I-80. There's the biggest one in the world is in Iowa, and these truck stops, they're where drivers can shower and rest and the whole 9 yards. Well, a child went into one of the shower rooms and one way or another got locked in, and the client said, I spent an hour trying to hammer that lock off the door. It was a Schlage L9000 series, and him and I both laughed. Locks are not meant to come off of doors. They're just not. Even when you know exactly where to drill or exactly where to work on bypassing it, they're not meant to come off. Getting a core, which turns out not in the trim but in a housing, probably a mortise cylinder housing, it's just not meant to come off. So they provided the bittings. I provided that to the customer. I assume all is well. What will happen from here is I'm going to just demonstrate how to shim open a full-size interchangeable core from Schlage. No biggie, there's one little trick, and if you thought, like I believe this customer thought, you cannot do it because that lifting pin is in the way, we'll talk about bypassing that. Let's move on and do that. Okay, so what I have here is a typical Schlage 23030, and I've already shimmed it open, meaning I've gotten it open. As I had said, I don't have an ability to pick these. This happens to be an O-bitted, or it's a 1-bitted, really, is what it is. So I could get this open with a pick, even I could. But I did successfully shim it. The key is, I'll pull that shim out. The key is how to get past that controlling pin back there. Let me rotate this back to the locked position. Okay, we're good. The only thing that I've done is I've removed the threaded cap, I've removed the spring and the pin that's on there. That's all I've done. Now, as you know, the only way to insert this into a core, into a housing, or a trim is you've got to have a control key. A control key, whether it is full-size interchangeable core by Schlage, anyone's LFIC, or small format, you always need the tool by which to get the core into the housing, or whatever you're installing it into. And again, I had assumed that this is exactly what the client had in his hands, and all he needed to do was get that open. Well, that's not the case. So what you need to do is you need to get that pin retracted so you can get that lifting pin out of the way to sneak your shim in, because right now, and by the way, you should always have scissors at your locksmithing desk. When your shims get kinked over, just take your scissors, just trim them ever so slightly. Ever so slightly. At a certain point, they'll get too short to actually use, but so what I'm demonstrating here is you can't get the shim in here because that pin is in the way. You can't get it in. So what we'll do is we'll use a pick to lift right at the very tip of my my fingernail, you'll see that small little pin that's there. That lifting pin is what I'm calling it. I don't know what it's actually called. You would think that I would. Just a pick, something super simple. And all I'm going to do is just lift that. And it will lift to the point where I'll be able to push that in and manipulate that collar as well. So let's switch to a different camera view and let's study doing that. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now let's get back to it. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to get that pin pushed back there, and then we will use the vise as a third hand, so to speak. So all I'm going to do is just kind of push that up, pin right inside of here. You can see it right there. And while I'm doing that, with this finger that's moving, I'm pushing on the locking pin as I lift. And then you'll see that I've got it pushed all the way in. What I have to do now is I have to hold that back. And it takes a lot of energy to hold that back while I get it into the vise. And I'm just going to use the vise to hold the pin in. That hurts the finger. At least it does mine. And I'm going to hold it upside down, and then I will just shim it open upside down. And that you obviously don't want to crush any of that. So at this point, I've got the pin moved out of the way, and I can now sneak my shim in here. Now, because this is O-bitted or 1-bitted, I could certainly get it open with this, but for our client, that was not the case. So what I'm going to use is, I have a 35101, that's Schlage's part number 4, a 6-pin blank, and I have it in an H keyway, and an H keyway is a multi-section blank that covers C, E, and CE, and this happens to be a CE core. Yeah. So I'm just going to do my shimming, which in most instances I'm not awful at. But I'm never very good at it. And sometimes I do employ a pick, but not often. And I've never actually shimmed a cylinder upside down. And now my shim is almost all the way in. Okay, so I got it open. So now I've shimmed it open. The bottom line is this. You're most definitely okay. I've rotated it. You're okay now to pull the shim out because you've rotated the core. Nothing's going to happen. You can pull that shim out. Now I'm going to gently release what we have. It's not going to go anywhere, and it's fine because you're now in the opened condition. So the key with this is finger on the locking pin as you lift that, and you need to get it into the fully retracted position. Sometimes you have to wiggle this collar in order to get it back, but you will get it back. Easy peasy. I happen to use a vise. I imagine if you had a really tiny clamp, that would be good too. Then you could put sometimes I use a vise to shim cylinders because sometimes you just can't hold it and move and advance the shim Trying to get that camera to focus back on us. Get that shim advanced while you're holding the cylinder and trying to take a key blank, and it's helpful to have a blank and not a O or a 1 or a 0 or a 1 bitted. You can do it with O bitted blanks. It's just nice to have an actual blank because it slides easier in and out. But that's how you get that open. So hopefully, obviously for the client that's not what they were doing. We found out after the fact. As I snap that back together, and I'll put the cap and the pin back in, and then at the end of the day, that's really all there is to it, and I hope that was of some help. And again, I did get the biddings for the 3 different variants, sent them to the client, and he'll just take his Blue Punch or his HPC or his Fromen or whatever he's going to use and originate a key, and hopefully that'll be great. He will cut that on a control blank, because that's what he needs to do. I don't know the part number off the top of my head for a control blank, but that's a really easy dive into our website. There's a quick reference to Schlage cylinders and keys, that kind of thing. An old document, but it's really solid. Any questions on this or any other Schlage item, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you. Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up. Please subscribe and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.